Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
That's right, I'm back. And hello again, my podcasting friends. Have you heard about this?
I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious.
Let's do it again.
I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Today we're going to talk a little bit more about radio. We're going to have a little history lesson today.
That's one small step for man.
I have the answer. Welcome to the Pat White Show. Let's get into it.
This is Sparta!
Well, hello everyone, and welcome into the Pat White Show. And today we're going to talk about one of the biggest stories that the city of Fort Wayne has seen to date. And I'll tell you how big this story is, because it covers a huge piece of land, roughly 765 football fields in size. Now think about that, 765 football fields, multiple acres, 892 acres to be exact, on the southeast corner, or the southeast section rather, of Fort Wayne in Allen County, Indiana. Now, they finally announced what this is going to be after months or weeks, whatever, of discussions. What could that be used for? And everybody came up with, well, it could be this, could be that. Well, now we know what it is. I'll tell you what it is. It's a Google site. It's a Google data site. Now, you have to understand something. Google has about 24 of these around the world. They're hubs. They're places where they store data and move data and talk to people and everything else. And there's 14 of them in the United States. Now, the nearest one to Fort Wayne is outside of Columbus, Ohio. But let me tell you, if you don't understand this, years and years ago, Fort Wayne used to be a clearinghouse, a waypoint. I think that's a better term to use, a waypoint for data that was done via microwave. Now, anybody who remembers the old days of those big giant horns that look like cornucopia horns, positioned on tall towers, would remember what this was. Well, downtown Fort Wayne, there used to be a big, tall tower right there by the General Telephone Data Center. It was a huge tower. It was up in the air that had a big horn on it. And that was a data transmission site for one part of the United States to the other, because those things work on what they call line of sight. So you got to have the right elevation. You got to have the right location. Well, Fort Wayne was a data transfer site. And it was just one of many that existed around the United States. Well, when things changed and they went into fiber optics and giant underground cables and things like that, Fort Wayne was right along that route. A lot of people wonder why Fort Wayne was able to get fiber optic TV from Verizon. Well, it's because the fiber optic cable, the big giant hubs, Fort Wayne was right on the track. We were there. So that's the big data hub. That's the big line that serves the internet. And let's be honest, the world is turning into the internet. Whether you like it or I like it, it is turning into the internet. This is going to be a data site that Google's going to use for things like, you do Google search, Google email, you do maps, you do all that. So once you type something into your computer and Google's got to send out the spiders to find the information, well, those spiders are going to emanate from these data centers. They're going to search out, find the information that you need and send it back to you. One place can't do it all because there's so many people that are using the Google service. So they have to have multiple hubs around the United States. The reason Fort Wayne was selected, because we are right on the data hub line that goes from this point to that point all around the United States. That's why Fort Wayne was chosen. Now, it's going to be a big facility. It's data servers. It's a server hub. That's really what it is. It's all computers. And a lot of this stuff is transitioning into artificial intelligence. It's called AI. And they've got to have a site to put all the computers to be able to do that. Fort Wayne has been chosen as one of those locations. How many people will it employ? I don't know. How much electricity will it use? Apparently a lot. Is it going to have to use water for cooling? Probably yes, but we have water. But is it a big thing for Fort Wayne? In a lot of ways it is, because they are located their center here in Fort Wayne, which is going to bring a lot of people in who have electronic information, electronic history, electronic background, computer background. The computer geeks are going to be showing up in Fort Wayne because they want to work at the data center for Google. Like I said, I don't know how many people are going to employ, but now you understand the big thing that's going on. The big thing that everybody was wondering about what it was going to be, we now know it's a Google data site. Now you know. See ya. Coming up next. Hello again and welcome to the Pat White Show. And today we're going to be discussing an issue that has occurred in the United States government dealing with a massacre, a shooting of kids in a classroom back in 2022 in the little town of Uvalde, Texas. Now, recently, the Attorney General of the United States, Merrick Garland, went on public television and read a full scathing, and I think I could use that term properly, a scathing report having to do with this entire episode that happened in Uvalde. And here's what went down. 19 kids were killed and 2 teachers were killed when a gunman invaded a classroom in a school in Uvalde, Texas. Now, Uvalde is not a big city. It's a little town. It's a little town in Texas. And right now they're looking at they have impaneled a grand jury. And here's the point to think about. A grand jury to see if any of the police officers involved in this situation that went down can be charged with a felony. That's what I'm telling you. They are impaneling a grand jury to see if any of the police officers who were involved in this entire episode can be charged with a felony and put into prison. I don't know about you, but I'm sure the members of the Thin Blue Line are not real happy about what's going on here, because is there blame to go around? Who should be blamed? Is there someone at fault in this? And that's what the grand jury is supposed to find out. And if the grand jury reviews all the testimony and says, you know what, we think there's a person involved with this who should be charged, should it be the officers? Well, the problem is this. When that shooting went out, the call went out. Now, this is in the Uvalde School District. And here the officer working he's got to contact his supervisor to say, okay, here's what's going on, because you've got to have a point man running the rodeo. Now, a lot of police officers are taught nowadays, you hear gunfire, you head toward it. You take out the bad guy regardless. And in this case, the police officers at the school and the surrounding local police officers showed up, and they're all going, who's running the rodeo? Whose orders do we take? Everybody was saying, well, let's do this, let's do that. Well, who's running this? Who's running that? State police start showing up. Everybody's showing up on the scene, but nobody knows who's running the rodeo. The guy who was in the beginning, who was supposed to run the rodeo, was the Uvalde School District Police Chief. His name was Pete Arredondo. Now, I don't know what his status is today. I don't know if he's retired or whatever he's doing, but he was the first guy when the whole mess started. But after things got going, there were all kinds of police there, from local to federal agents were there. And apparently, nobody took charge. But Chief Redondo said it was because the person in the classroom with a gun was holding people hostage. It was a barricaded situation because the police tried to enter that, and the guy took a shot at the police officers trying to go into the classroom. So he said, well, it's a barricade situation. Let's respond that way. So everybody stood down and stood around. Matter of fact, they stood around for 77 minutes. That's what I'm telling you, 77 minutes. Nothing got done, and nobody knew what to do because nobody knew who was in charge. That's the problem. Nobody was the point man. Part of the problem here is none of these agencies, local, sheriff's department, state police, federal, none of them had worked together to say, okay, we have a situation where we all come together. Here's who's going to run point. Here's who's going to run the rodeo. They didn't have that. Apparently that had not been practiced. And frankly, when you talk about a little town of Uvalde, Texas, they don't have the money to do all of that stuff. They don't have that money to concentrate all the police stuff. Yes, a bad guy got into the school, had a gun, shot up, killed 19 kids and 2 teachers. I agree with that. That's terrible. But do we need a grand jury to now start indicting officers saying, you didn't go in. Somebody's got to run the rodeo. And when you have all these organizations, nobody knew which one was in charge. Until eventually, one of the police officers, here's what I understand. One of the police officers, his wife was the teacher in that schoolroom. Many of them wanted to go in, but they said, nope, you can't. We don't have someone in charge. That's the problem. Nobody was running the rodeo. And now a grand jury is going to investigate it. Is he who goes to jail if someone does in fact go to jail for endangering the lives of children under the age of 15. That's the current story. How this is going to end up, I don't know. What the federal grand jury is going to do, I don't know. But I can tell you this. For the police officers who were there, many of whom wanted to charge in and take this person out, ultimately a couple did. To be charged with a felony because you didn't go in and do their job, you got to have somebody running a rodeo. I don't care what you say. You can't be a rogue hot dog agent because you're always afraid you're going to be sued for something because you went ahead and did something on your own. That's the problem we have in a litigious society like ours. And that's what's going on. So ask yourself, how would you like to be on that federal grand jury, decide the lives of police officers who were standing there and weren't sure what to do because nobody told them when to go and where to go? It's a difficult situation. Should the police chief be charged? It's not my call. It's the call of the grand jury. But now you know what's going on. You have been informed. Coming up next. Hello, once again. Welcome to the Pat White Show. Today we are going to discuss an event. Now, this event is scheduled for April the 8th, 2024. And it's not an event that everybody's going to get to see, but the people in the Midwest, well, actually from southeast Florida all the way up toward Canada in a 70-mile stretch on either side will get to see this. You're asking yourself, what do you mean they get to see it? What are they going to get to see? Well, I'll tell you what they're going to see. A complete solar eclipse. I mean a total annular solar eclipse. We've seen eclipses before, a little bit of the moon covers a little bit of the sun. No, back in 2017 was the last time we had one of these, but it went over another different part of the United States. This one is going to go from roughly southeast Texas and a swath 70 miles long, headed all the way up through the Ohio Valley, up into Canada, Buffalo, New York. So you figure from southeast Texas all the way to Buffalo, New York, 70-mile wide strip of land, and that's where people are going to see the solar eclipse, a full solar eclipse. Now, part of that area is Indiana. That's right. Indianapolis, Bloomington. Yep, they're going to be seeing the solar eclipse, full annular solar eclipse. Fort Wayne, this is going to be a partial, not totally, but here's what's important. If you're going to look at the sun, you better have special eyeglasses, special lenses. Now, I've seen some people use welder's lenses, welder's caps. That's fine. That works perfectly well. But you don't look directly at the sun because, well, you can burn your eyeballs out, frankly. So it's going to happen on April the 8th, around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Suddenly, everything's going to start turning dark. And I remember the last time we had an eclipse here in the Fort Wayne area, this goes back, I think, into the 70s. I remember I felt the temperature change. And even the colors around changed. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And I thought, man, everything has kind of a cast of green to it. And that's exactly what was going on during this eclipse. Well, now we're going to be facing a full solar eclipse. We could see some cool things outside of the moon. You could see eruptions. Many of those things could happen. But around the United States, hotels are being booked right now for that April event. Wherever there's going to be an annular eclipse, a full eclipse, hotels in those areas like Bloomington and Indianapolis and Buffalo, New York, down there in southeast Texas, they're all getting booked up because people want to see a full eclipse. And according to NASA, this one is going to be really cool because you could have some cool things popping out from the sun. Don't know if it will or not. Nobody knows that it will or not. But if it does, it could be spectacular. So I'm advising you early to think about, gee, you want to turn your house into an Airbnb? You want to rent it out and make a lot of money? Yeah, people want to come and see the eclipse. They might be willing to spend a lot of money to rent your house. Just depends where you are in that 70-mile wide band that's going to stretch over part of the United States. So, next April, make sure you have your protective glasses because we are going to see a total annular eclipse. Hope it doesn't scare the dogs. See ya. Coming up next. Hello and welcome back into the Pat White Show. And here today we're going to be talking about a battle. A battle between folks who say Coca-Cola tastes better from the American version or from the Mexican version. Now, I've heard this battle for a long time, and as one who is back in the youth and consumed bottles of Coca-Cola and also living on the Mexican border, El Paso, Texas, where I pretty much grew up, I can tell you this. People would say, well, we like drinking Mexican Coke as compared to American Coke because Mexican Coke tastes different. And that was the conundrum. Everybody said, well, no, sugar is sugar. And, well, no, not really, as we found out. Turns out that Coca-Cola, for the American side, is made from high fructose corn syrup. And fructose, obviously, turns into glucose, and your brain needs it, and we all understand that, so let's get that out of the way. But it's a matter of what your taste buds taste. And it turns out that Mexican Coke, the sweetener they use in it is not high fructose corn syrup, it's sugar cane. That's right, Mexican Coke is made with sugar cane. And to the palate, to many people who have probably a better palate taste than, say, I do, they can taste the difference between the Mexican Coke and the American Coke. And now if you go to grocery stores, there's certain sections of the grocery stores that have their sodas, their pops, they call them whatever you will. They have certain sections now where specialty sodas, specialty pops, specialty beverages, whatever you call them, are. And that you can actually purchase Mexican Coca-Cola. Yes, it costs more because it's done differently. Also comes in glass bottles because they say glass bottles makes the beverage taste different as compared to cans. I'm not a connoisseur, so I don't know. But there's the story. Does Coke taste different from Mexico than it does in the United States? Apparently, the answer is yes, it does. Mexican Coke is made with sugar cane. American Coke is sweetened with high fructose corn syrup. That comes from corn. Now, we grow a lot of corn in the United States, and obviously that's what it's used for, and that's what many manufacturers utilize high fructose corn syrup in their beverages and a lot of other things. But if you're a Coke fan, you know that the taste is everything. And that taste of a Coca-Cola made with sugar cane, to many people, tastes totally different than what comes in a can or a plastic bottle made in the United States. So yes, Coke does taste different. Depends upon where it's made and the country. Now you know. So go out and buy whatever Coke you want. That's my opinion on it. See ya. Coming up next. Hello, everyone, and welcome back into the Pat White Show. And more often than not, I'm talking about things that are not good. Government, crime, you name it. Well, this time I'm going to try to talk about something kind of nice, something kind of cool. It just depends upon where you sit in life, really. Well, as you know, we've gone through a lot of snow thus far in this particular winter, and snow has hit some places worse than others. And one of the places it's really been bad is a place called Buffalo, New York. Now, Buffalo sits on the end of a lake, and they get lake effect snow. And when it snows in Buffalo, it snows a bunch. But you see, Buffalo has something else. They've got a football team in the National Football League, the Buffalo Bills. And this year, the Buffalo Bills are actually pretty decent. They have a chance to go on to, dare I say it, the Super Bowl? Yes. Will they make it? Don't know. Don't have any idea. But they are competing in games, and they're having games actually in their stadium at Orchard Park. It's called Hallmark Stadium. And it's just, I'd say, to the southeast of Buffalo, right in the snow band where they get all the snow. And they've had a lot of snow. So what happened was the people from the stadium, the city of Buffalo, made a call out, if you will, to fans and residents of the Buffalo area, fans of the Bills, that they need help. Come out and shovel out their stadium, because, you see, they don't have a dome stadium in Buffalo. They have a stadium that plays to the elements. You know, God, the sun, Mother Nature. Well, there's somewhere between around, I don't know, maybe 6 feet of snow inside that stadium. They got a game scheduled for Sunday, and so the folks in Buffalo came out and said, hey, well, need y'all help. Come out and shovel. $20 an hour. Well, people started to gather outside the stadium at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and they're going to open the stadium and let people start shoveling out the place. Now, you know, they've got machines to put on down the floor, down the field. They've got all kinds of equipment down there. But that's not the problem. The problem is the seating area where people sit. Snow is as much as 6 foot deep in those areas. And I don't know about you, but if you try to go to a stadium where snow is 6 foot deep, what the hell are you going to do with it? So what they did was they said, okay, we just need people to come out and shovel the snow, and we'll pay them $20 an hour. 2 o'clock, call went out. By 2:20, the line stretched from gate number 7, which is on a main entrance on the side of the stadium, clear out into the Bills parking lot. So many people showed up. Hundreds and hundreds showed up with their shovels. The team vice president, a gentleman by the name of Andy Major, said, we got more people than we ever possibly could have imagined. I mean, we know we needed the help. They know we needed the help, he said. There's no sugarcoating this, he said. There's 5+ feet of snow, maybe 6 feet of snow in the stands right now, he said. 5 to 6 feet of snow? Well, the response from fans apparently has been a little bit more than they bargained for. Because about an hour and a half after they asked people to show up, they said, we don't need any more help. We got too many people showing up. We don't need any more help. We appreciate it. People showed up, shovels. They had lunch bags. They had coolers, whatever. They were going to stay there and shovel. Shoveling for the Bills, they said. Something's got to get done. We're going to get it done. It's got to be us, some of the folks said. We got to get the job done. A lot of these fans are going to be attending the AFC divisional game on Sunday when Buffalo plays. And the fans are saying, we want our stadium ready to rock and roll. Now, I saw it last week when they haven't. Turns out they got a lot of the snow out. This week they got more snow and more people showed up. It was a huge gathering. And finally they said, folks, we can't take any more of y'all in here. There's too many of you. People were out there working to shovel snow, and that's exactly what they did. So will that stadium be cleared when the game starts tomorrow? Apparently so. They're even working up in the upper deck level, the 300 level, sky zone. And they're getting things shoveled out. You know what? Win or lose, I got to give the folks at Buffalo a lot of credit. They came out when help was needed. They did the job. And you know what? They didn't quit at sundown. The stadium lights were on, and the folks worked 24 hours a day. Ask yourself, would you work 24 hours a day for your team? Just something to think about. That's dedication, folks. That's dedication. Let's see how they do on Sunday. See ya. Coming up next. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back into the Pat White Show. We're going to talk about something that's a little more personal to me, and at least let you know a little bit about me that maybe you don't know, or maybe you don't want to know, but you're going to find out anyway. In a recent episode, one of my bits that I did, you saw me wearing this shirt, and you see it says right here, NRA on this thing. And I was asked, hey, what is that? And it means National Rifle Association, NRA. Yes, whether you like it or not, I am one of those people. Now, you don't have to like the fact that I happen to be a member of the NRA. I just happen to be. I've been around guns since I was in 5th grade. We were living in Washington State, and it was Christmas. And my parents bought for me my first .22 single-shot rifle. I think they got it in the Sears catalog. So anyway, my father took me outside. We lived on a farm, and he took the gun outside, and we had a tree out there. It was winter. It's like December, okay? So he saw a bird in a tree, and he put a shell. It was a single-shot gun. Put a shell in the thing, and aimed at that bird in that, I think it was an evergreen tree, and pulled the trigger and shot and killed the bird. And I was horrified. I'm not kidding you. I was horrified. I broke out just crying. In 5th grade. What do you think? Ran back in the house, and they came back in and put the gun in my room. I didn't touch that gun for probably 6 weeks. I was so horrified over it. Father killed something with it. And then eventually I got to thinking, oh, wait a minute. That's what that guns do. That's what the purpose of a gun is, to kill something or someone. They use them in wars, obviously. We know that. And so at that point I said, don't point a gun at anything you don't want to kill. That became the mantra. And remains that way today. So I would take that gun out and I would shoot, because we lived on a farm, and you go out in the fields and the woods and everything else and shoot at squirrels and whatever else was flying out there. I didn't do that a whole lot, because I really wasn't fond of shooting animals. That wasn't a big thing. But I like shooting. I like plinking. I like shooting at something small, a little tiny. I like to hit it. Well, that's how I got started in firearms. And today, yes, I am a firearms owner. And I shoot as much as I can. I'm what they call a precision shooter. I like to shoot for accuracy. And I do not own a centerfire weapons, the big guns. And people who have them, and God bless them, they do. I shoot plain old everyday .22 caliber rifles. Small caliber, inexpensive to shoot, and that's what I shoot. But I shoot for accuracy. Now, right behind me, see this? Looks like a target right there. That's an IBS target. And you got to shoot one shot at each of those circles. There's 25 circles. If you hit the middle of it, you get 10 points. 25 circles times 10 is 250. That one there shows I scored 250. There's one down the other end of the room there. You can't barely see it. That's what is called an ARA factory target. On that one, you shoot in the middle, you get 100 points for each one. There's 25 circles, and that's a 2,500 total score you can get if you're good. That one shows I shot 2,500. That's what I do. That's what I enjoy doing. But the other big thing is I believe in safety. I was trained by the NRA. When I was a kid in 5th grade, the NRA came to our campus, the school I was going to, and read what amounts to as an anti-eagle course, teaching kids safety and firearms. That's where I learned it. And I've been part of that ever since. Now, see this little thing right here? Right there? That happens to say that I'm a NRA certified range safety officer. I'm also an NRA certified chief range safety officer. And one of the things that I do is I volunteer my time at the particular range that I shoot at. It's an Isaac Walton League of America range. And I'm a range safety officer. I volunteer my time to do that. And because you want to have safety NRAs. Safety is the number one thing that you learn. Safety is the number one thing you teach. And that's what I believe in. So yes, am I a fan of the Second Amendment? You better believe it. You know, the people, the founders of our country, created the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. Second Amendment was set up to say, hey, we got to have a militia. We got to have people who are armed because they were concerned not about the British coming over and taking over the country again. They were concerned about the government turning into a tyrannical mess. And then eventually the citizen would have to rise up and say, enough's enough. That's what I believe. And you don't have to believe it. You believe whatever you want. But I think now you need to know who I am and what I believe in. So yes, I'm a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. Yes, I'm a safety nut. And yes, I shoot rifles and pistols. But I don't shoot to kill anything or to kill anyone. I shoot at targets to see if I can be the best of the best. And yeah, there's people who are better than me. But if you practice and you work and you train, you hopefully could get better. But overall, the biggest thing to me is safety. Safety is the number one thing. And I teach that to everybody I'm around and make sure that everyone is safe. That's my philosophy. That's who I am. Like it or not, I am a member of the National Rifle Association, and I'm darn proud of it. See ya. Coming up next. Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Pat White Show. Today we're going to be talking about the demise of a mainstay of journalism, and that happens to be a magazine. It's a magazine I've been around since I was a kid, and I'm sure many of you recognize the magazine. It's Sports Illustrated. Turns out the company that owns Sports Illustrated, because it was sold to another company, that the folks who owned Time Magazine, Time Warner, dumped all their properties, including Sports Illustrated, and Time Warner also dumped Time Magazine and Fortune Magazine. They decided they were going to go with their mainstay, which was People Magazine and a magazine called In Style. Now, I don't know about In Style, but I know People Magazine still exists. But Sports Illustrated has announced that they are closing down their shop. 70 employees have lost their jobs. Now, think about it this way. How many of us remember Sports Illustrated from back in the days when they had their swimsuit edition? And you saw some really tremendous models who ended up becoming superstars. And that's perfectly fine. But magazines are disappearing. And let's think about it this way. Do you remember Saturday Evening Post? You remember Look Magazine? You remember Life Magazine? They're all gone. How about Newsweek Magazine? I used to get Newsweek. I used to get Newsweek in Time because I wanted to see what was going on in the news. All those magazines are gone. All the mainstays that we have lived with for years and years and years have disappeared from the newsstand. And I remember when I was a kid, the newsstands used to be large when you see magazines. There are magazines everywhere. Now a magazine rack may be 3 feet across when it used to be 10 feet back in the old days. I was walking down the aisle of a grocery store looking by the magazine section. Virtually nothing. because magazines are no longer in style with the American public. People now, if they want to get a magazine, they will subscribe to it online. They'll get the information online they want. Now, do I still get some magazines? Yes, but they deal with my particular industry, the things that I do, the things that I enjoy. Does my wife get magazines? Yes, she does. She gets People magazine because she likes reading it. But here's the weird place. Remember when you used to go to the doctor's office and they had a whole plethora of magazines, and you would sit there and you'd pull out a magazine, you flip through it. You weren't reading it. You were just looking at the pictures, waiting for your turn to be called to go into the exam room. Or the car dealership. You're sitting there at the car dealership waiting for your oil to be changed, and they've got magazines stacked up. Well, now it's getting difficult to get magazines. Decent ones. Because the magazine industry, as we know it, is dying. People don't take magazine like they used to, and now magazines have found out it's cheaper to do it online where they don't have to print anything. They don't have to pay for printing or binding or mailing or anything else. I know because I've worked on one of those where we actually created a magazine that we put online. It was a great magazine. It looked great. Didn't cost us a dime to print except what we used on the internet. Software, designed the whole thing. Add the pictures in, created a magazine online. That's the way things are going. So if you're looking for magazines in your doctor's office, they're going to become few and far between and probably very specialized in things that you don't give a darn about. But Sports Illustrated has now died an ugly death. See ya. Hey everyone, this is Pat White from The Pat White Show, and I want to tell you about a special guest we have coming up real soon, the Queen. That's right, Queen Diane is going to join us on The Pat White Show to discuss past, what we did, some of the guests we had, some of the fun stuff that we enjoyed over the years when we were broadcasting at 50,000 watt WOWO. If you have a question for us about a particular show, what we did, just drop us a line at patwhiteshow@gmail.com. That's patwhiteshow@gmail.com. And who knows, you might hear your question read on the air. Well, that does it for today's edition of the Pat White Show. Thanks for tuning in, and make sure to follow us on social media for the latest Pat White Show for all the news and updates. And stay tuned for brand new episodes of the Pat White Show coming real soon. Like what you're hearing? Make sure you don't miss an episode by following The Pat White Show on Spotify. Just search for The Pat White Show, hit follow, and get ready for insightful conversations delivered straight to your Spotify feed. If you enjoy watching podcasts as much as listening to them, good news! The Pat White Show is also on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel now for visual content, behind-the-scenes footage, and full podcast experience. Find us on YouTube at the Pat White Show channel.